Hello once again, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with the Caro-Kann. Has anyone ever told you that the Caro-Kann Exchange Variation is deathly boring? Well, they've never played it at noob level, at beginner level, at intermediate level, at advanced intermediate level. It's a very fascinating opening, and we're going to be talking about it today. Once again, all the moves will be in the description down below. Now, the Exchange Caro-Kann looks like this. So you play the Caro-Kann with c6 and d5 after e4 and d4. And white, instead of pushing or defending the pawn with the knight or, playing something else like the queen or whatever, they take. And we get what's called the exchange Caro-Kann. You take back, that's the whole point of playing c6. And now the game, people say it gets boring because you kind of could develop in the same way with the bishops coming to the same squares, the knights coming to the same squares. Sorry if the audio kind of breaks, just bear with me. We're making it work. Here the most common move and the best move to play for white is c4. Almost like in the style of the Panov. This is the Panov. Black plays knight to f6. We get knight to c3. And then you've got a couple moves here to consider for black. I mean, you're going to play them all eventually, so I don't think the move order matters in particular. So you could play e6. You could start with knight to c6 if you so desire. We get knight to f3, bishop to b4, and then probably something like c takes d5, knight takes d5, and bishop to d2. I think the exchange variation is so unique. If we go back to c4, it's so unique because you have traded the c pawn for the e pawn. So in theory, black is a little bit better because they've got two central pawns. But because of the c4 push, you're probably going to be trading it off, or black is going to be taking. So that central pawn, it goes away. And unless you commit to like e6 and then try and take with the knight, you're just going to be, that advantage that you could have in theory goes away. Now, there's nothing, I don't think, in the exchange that's particularly threatening. There's nothing really, I don't want to say there's nothing to learn, but you play natural developing moves. It almost becomes, if you think about it, after knight f6, c3, and e6, this structure is like a queen's gambit declined. But you've already lost the e and the c pawns, which is a problem. Because also, white takes at various points. Like, white could take now. And you get like knight takes d5, and, to d3. And then you've got this tension between the knights. We could play like bishop to b4 maybe, and then, bishop to d2. And you could take at some points. Sometimes you can't because you're not under threat two different ways, and then you have to take with the pawn. And white gets left very often with this isolated queen's pawn, the IQP. And that is where the imbalance from the position will come from, and what you will be playing against. You'll be looking to try and win this pawn, to blockade it, to stop it from moving forward. White is going to look to play around the pawn and create all their play around it. And, while you're worried about this, we're going to be attacking you in other places. So look, there's not a hell of a lot of theory. If we go through it again, e4, c6, d4, d5, and it's this exchange. Of course, white can play this with like bishop to d3. We get knight to c6, attacking the pawn, and now c3. And you can get this structure, and this is a structure I've had quite a few times. With these moves being played, queen to b3, and, something like queen to d7, knight to d2, e6, and you get this structure where we've got these pawns, and you've got like these pawns. And we've got this two different ways. Now, generally what that means is black is going to use these two pawns on the queen side to try and create play. So that could be like a6, b5, and then getting the knight to c4. Just careful not to get pinned. And white's play comes on the king side. They hurl some pawns forward. They try and disrupt the pawn structure, particularly when these bishops get traded. If you trade them the wrong way, then you can get opened up really quickly. Of course, white still has some lingering pressure here, but the queen can always come back and reinforce on this diagonal. And this is a structure you have to get used to play. It's really not easy because you can build up with like bishop to d6, not at the moment because if it takes, you lose here. But as you can see, the engine thinks it's very much level. The drawback of playing this for white, and why it's always perceived to be boring, is because if you think about it, by pushing or doing nothing, this bishop has to come out quickly, otherwise it gets blocked in. By trading, unless black willfully blocks it in with e6, the bishop just comes out. And you've gained nothing. It's like when we spoke about the French defense, it's linked in the playlist. We said the exchange French is a little bit boring because the structure is symmetrical. It's actually symmetrical, whereas here we do have the inherent imbalance of the e4 c pawn. Here, the bishop just gets out, and I think that's the biggest thing. Why would you play this as white? Well, it depends. If you really like the structure with like getting all of this, if you like, maybe not this one, no, not this one. We went through a couple, didn't we? Something like this kind of structure. If this is what you like, with the rooks and the stuff, if this is what you like, and c4 still exists, e4, e5 still exists, oh my gosh, the S's, especially on the microphone. I do apologize if the audio quality is terrible. If this is what you like, then you do it. It's what you feel is your best approach to the Caro-Kann as the white pieces. If you're playing the black pieces, you've got to know how to handle it in the various ways that it can come about. Remember, we spoke about white can play the Panov, or they can play like with the pawn on c3. I have seen some games where they like put the knight here, and then you've got to like figure out what happens if we just put the knights out, and then like this and stuff like that. If they don't touch the c pawn, you are slightly better as black. White needs to make a decision with the c pawn. It either goes to c3 or to c4. It cannot stay on c2. Because, mainly the bishop doesn't have to go there. It can be here and target. So that's just the one drawback as white. If you're playing there, and black, you got to notice it. Maybe your bishop goes here, and then you get like knight to b4, and you put pressure on that. Can be something to look at. Definitely. I hope you enjoyed the video. Moves are in the description. I hope the audio quality and the video quality was okay. It looks like I'm glitching on the camera as I wave. I wave goodbye. Cheers.